countries, which is full of voidism and impersonalism. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. I offer my obeisances to Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas, and all others in a line of devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I would like to thank you all for being here, and I'd also like to thank the ISKCON Toronto community and management for giving me this opportunity to speak for my purification. And the topic given to me was on Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya is non-different from Lord Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And on the left altar, you will see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then Nityananda Prabhu, so right, left. And Nityananda Prabhu is non-different from Balaram, and Chaitanya is non-different from Krishna. Krishna in the mood of Radharani, trying to showcase devotional service. So if we look at all the different yoga systems, there's Karma Yoga, yoga of activity. There is Jnana Yoga, yoga of knowledge. There's the Ashtanga Yoga, which is the eight-limb yoga process. And then on the topmost is Bhakti Yoga. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to really showcase how one can practice bhakti, especially in this day and age of Kali, where we have busy lives, we don't have enough time, and how can we really perfect ourselves? So I was meditating on how to talk about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then I was reading a book, which is, I'm currently reading, which is Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, and this is Srila Prabhupada in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris. And Srila Prabhupada traveled quite extensively. So there was a passage in here that was very applicable, so I thought I would read it all to you and comment on it a little bit. So this is Srila Prabhupada in America, and it's describing about Srila Prabhupada here. So having visited half a dozen cities in little more than a month's time, Srila Prabhupada was planning next to visit London. Clearly, his field had become the entire world, and his traveling was a practical enactment of his conviction that Krishna consciousness should be given to people everywhere. So I'll repeat that last sentence. And his traveling was a practical enactment of his conviction that Krishna consciousness should be given to people everywhere. And this is very apropos because if you think about it, traveling to 6 different cities in 1 month, it's probably very tiresome. People might get very, jet lagged, or they may feel very tired because it's program after program. So our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada traveled to 6 different cities in America, and these were not cities like Toronto, Brampton, Mississauga. It's not all one row of the other. It's usually Atlanta or Gainesville or New York or Chicago. So he would do this in 1 month, so it's quite extensive. So we are very indebted to Srila Prabhupada because at that age, he had such transcendental energy that he wanted to keep on going and showcase Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna consciousness should be given to people everywhere. And sometimes we may wonder, what's the unique contribution of ISKCON? Many of you who may have come to a temple, you may see, well, there's so many different temples, so many different institutions. What's the uniqueness about ISKCON? And the uniqueness about ISKCON is not that we have huge temples, marble, and unique architecture. But if you go across the country or across the world, you'll find that ISKCON is an embassy of the spiritual world, where the lineage of tradition coming from Krishna all the way to us is maintained in disciplic succession. So the same tradition is maintained generation after generation, going all the way to the beginning of creation. So Srila Prabhupada's unique contribution is that he gave knowledge and he gave the practice of Krishna consciousness regardless of anyone's birth or where their social economic status was. He gave it to everyone. And that's why if you go to Vrindavan, especially maybe 10, 20 years ago, they would have a term for ISKCON Vrindavan. Does anybody know what the locals call ISKCON Vrindavan? Angrezon Ka Mandir, which means that the English-speaking people's temple. It's known that way because there were so many people of foreign backgrounds would come into Vrindavan and serve there. But why is it known that? It's known that because Srila Prabhupada brought the practice of bhakti yoga in a very universally acceptable way so that all these people can take it. And they only go to ISKCON because it's where they're given that opportunity to practice and serve. So that's one thing very unique. So I'll read ahead. By Prabhupada's wide traveling and bold preaching, the old idea that Bhagavad Gita and Krishna were only for Hindus had become an anachronism, a prejudice. Barriers of race, religion, nation, sex, class were all now down. The Hindu saying that a Swami should not cross the ocean became a superstition, intended perhaps to protect the lesser Swamis, but certainly never to restrict the message of the absolute truth from being spread. So this is also very interesting because traditionally we hear that, people from the dharmic backgrounds don't preach. But the word that's mentioned here is anachronism. And typically I would recommend if you're purchasing Srila Prabhupada's books, you might want to get a dictionary because there's a lot of words that we have no idea what they mean. And actually this particular word, anachronism, was not in this dictionary. So you might have to get a bigger dictionary which have more words. So anachronism, the meaning is a chronological misplacement of a custom. So I'll repeat that, a chronological misplacement of a custom. So essentially what happened was Krishna was preaching the message of self-realization to Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma to Narada, and Narada was going and spreading this message of yoga. But what happened was, maybe a few centuries ago, people became complacent and said, well, we don't really need to, we need to just preach amongst our circles, but not to anybody from outside. And that was a misplacement. That's what's mentioned here. So it's a misnomer that we're not supposed to share knowledge. We're supposed to just keep it within our communities. Because if we have that sort of mindset, then Sanatana Dharma, the practice, will slowly go away. And then people wonder why it's going away. And the main foundation, just like this building is on a foundation, the foundation of all of our practices are based on knowledge. It's not based on superstition or some sort of illogical belief system or some dogmatic system. But if you forget about the knowledge, like we have Srimad Bhagavatam here, then people think, oh, what you practice is just superstition. And then no one's going to practice. And then they get converted to all sorts of ideologies like communism or thisism, thatism, right? Which doesn't really nourish the soul. Bhakti is that which nourishes the soul because it can be practiced by anyone. But it's karma yoga, an intellectual would not be so interested in karma yoga. And then if you look at jnana yoga, then a person who's into practical activity, not interested in jnana. If you look at Ashtanga yoga, well, it requires the eightfold limbs, which not everyone can practice all the time. But if you look at bhakti, anybody, anywhere can practice bhakti yoga. It is the all-inclusive, universal way in which we can connect in devotion to Krishna. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya mama vijananti, which means only through bhakti or devotion can you really get to know me. So if we really want to know about Krishna, we must engage in this wonderful practice of bhakti, which is essentially taking whatever propensity of love we have. We may have love for certain people in this world or celebrities or country or nation, but use that towards the ultimate source of everyone, which is Krishna. So that's very important. So here Prabhupada says that the barriers of race, religion, nation, sex, class were all now down. So Srila Prabhupada literally gave this to everyone. And he allowed everyone, regardless of your color of your skin or gender or race, to be able to participate in this process of bhakti yoga. And because traditionally we had the caste system, and Srila Prabhupada and his guru Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur were against the caste system because, again, it is anachronism. It is something that came about because people are jealous of certain individuals are practicing all of this. So we are against the caste system because it is limiting the soul's connection, soul's long connection with God. And therefore, we allow anyone, and including we have books, say, in Mandarin or Farsi or even French. And the people who read this are not going to be from, your Indian background or Hindu background, but Srila Prabhupada wanted this knowledge to be known. So we are best known for giving knowledge to connect society and to re-spiritualize the whole world. So with that conviction, you see the ISKCON movement all around the world. It's all about. And then we talk about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's expressed desire was that in every town and village of the world, that his name be heard, and no Vedic injunction can prohibit that. So some people say, okay, the Vedas have to be limited to a certain community, but when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God saying that this is going to happen, then who can go against it? So of course the Vedic literatures advise that a devotee to live in a secluded place and avoid worldly men and women, and they advise a devotee not to disturb the minds of innocent persons or preach to the faithless. According to one Vedic injunction, a devotee should not see the face of a non-believer. Such rules and regulations, however, intended mainly for the protection and purification for the neophytes, which was superseded by a stalwart Acharya acting on the higher principle of compassion. So Srila Prabhupada, taking the principle of compassion, said that it doesn't matter what situation you're in or where you're from, bhakti is for everyone. And even when you think about book distribution, when we distribute books to anyone because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself distributed Bhakti Yoga to everyone, regardless of, whether they're following principles or not. Recently, when we were distributing books in near Jagannath Puri, I met this gentleman who's from a Sanatan background, and he said that I've never read Bhagavad Gita before. And Bengali Bhagavad Gita to that gentleman who normally would not have that opportunity. So we're giving people opportunity, whether they're from this, a Sanatan background or people from any background. Like we have people who are from Muslim background. We have Haridas Thakur, who is a Namacharya. We think about Srila Prabhupada's disciples. Majority of them are, European or North American. And sometimes a reporter asks Prabhupada, like, what is your magic? Usually some gurus tend to have some siddhis, they can produce gold or ashes. And Srila Prabhupada said, look at my Western disciples, that is my miracle. So that is the proof in the pudding and its eating. So whenever you come to an ISKCON center, whether it's in Toronto or Paris or Amsterdam, London, New Delhi, Indonesia, Bali, or Mexico City, you'll find that the same sort of tradition is maintained and the same sort of philosophies practiced and taught and passed down generation to generation. And regardless of people's language, like if you read Arabic or you read Spanish or French, it doesn't matter. You can practice the philosophy that way in the language you understand, and then you engage in the practice of Bhakti Yoga and derive the benefit from it. So this movement is really there to share with everyone, regardless of what situation they're in. And even here, you encounter so many situations where I know there's people who are from Pakistan, who are from a Muslim background, who have taken initiation in Krishna consciousness. So we're not so much, antagonistic towards other religions. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who's one of our teachers, he says that whenever he crosses by a church, he thinks of how the church parishioners have so much devotion in there, and they're just devoting themselves to my Lord in a different form, as opposed to being sort of a headbutt with one another. And there's so many people who are from Catholic tradition. There's actually an ISKCON temple president in Eastern Ontario who works at a church, right? So we don't have this sort of antagonistic relationship with people from any community, because we want to transcend all of this so that we can truly be peace, share peace and message of goodwill towards the world. If we go down to the level of my religion, my practice, your practice, then this engages in a lot of fighting. And that's what we see in Kali Yuga. But ISKCON is so unique. You'll have people from any background. I have a person who I'm mentoring who's from Jain background, and they're practicing Krishna consciousness. A person from Sikh background. I know a person who has his Sikh pagadi turban, and he got initiated in Krishna consciousness. So we allow people to maintain their faith, and Prabhupada said you can maintain your faith and add Krishna. Follow the principles, chant Hare Krishna, follow the principles, and you can also perfect your life that way. So this is such a unique situation that you don't see anywhere. You won't see like, this person practicing this. And even me, I was in Vancouver Island, and I went to go to a church just to see what the church is like. There's no temple there. How are they worshiping? Just do a scan to see what goes on there. It's allowable in Krishna consciousness. They're not set in this way. And the Lilamrita, Prabhupada gave us so that we can understand about his pastimes. And the reason why we follow in the footsteps of Narad Muni, and we have Srimad Bhagavatam here. So the books are the basis, and we have a goal of distributing 100,008 Srimad Bhagavatam sets. So can everyone repeat that? So 1,008. So 100,008. So 100,008 or 1,08,000 is that amount of Srimad Bhagavatam sets, which is the summum bonum of our Vedic culture that has been comprised by Srila Vyasadeva in this age of Kali. For example, if you want to know what is the smallest denomination of matter? What is the smallest denomination of matter? Atom. So the Bhagavatam talks about the atom. It talks about the universe. It talks about karma, devotion, deity worship, the system of the Varna system. So all these information given in the Bhagavatam allows us to go deeper and deeper into bhakti. The Bhagavad Gita gives us the ABCs of spiritual life, the undergraduate study. But eventually we want to go further and study the postgraduate study, which is the Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam is there in all continents, I believe. It's even there in Antarctica. So it's there in so many different languages. In last year, for example, in Russia, 200 Srimad Bhagavatams were distributed in the Russian language. And there's a new Bhagavatam in Ukrainian language. And we go to the villages in India to make sure that people in the village have access to Bhagavatam. Many of them cannot afford it. So there's a program called Gram Vidya Dan, where if you have your relatives from a village, you can contribute towards a Bhagavatam set going to that village so that people have access to that. But the best thing you can do for yourself is to get a set for yourself, because in this day and age, people invest in, maybe I'll go to a yoga retreat, or maybe I'll go to, a meditation practice for 10 days in the mountains somewhere, spend thousands of dollars, then come back to my busy life, right? But the unique thing about the Bhagavatam is, consider this as a spiritual investment where on a daily basis, you're coming in contact with Krishna. Krishna's coming to your home. And don't feel like, man, I'm not qualified to read the Bhagavatam. I have distributed Bhagavatam to people who may not follow the principles of Krishna consciousness, but I said, that's not a problem. You read the Bhagavatam, and this is your daily meditation. You read a verse a day, 5 verses, and this way, 10, 15 minutes, instead of scrolling, you can read the glorious Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is very dear to me because when I was in university, I was very lost. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what my purpose of life is and who God is. And I was just searching and searching and searching. And I definitely did not find that in the nightclubs and the parties and the frat parties that I went to as a university student. But then when I found a Bhagavatam at a used bookstore, Canto 1, it gave me, okay, Krishna's God, I am the soul, and my purpose is to love and serve, ultimately Krishna. So from this, I got direction in life that this is what I need to do. This is my purpose and life mission. And in doing so, it has saved me from so many bad habits that as a young person in Canada I could get into, depression, anxiety, drugs. I did not get into all of that because the Bhagavatam saved me from transferring my thoughts from material thoughts to spiritual thoughts. And the Bhagavatam is just such a glorious book that it's like drinking nectar. Sometimes if you're thinking about honey, it's hard to drink honey because it's very dense. But if you think about nectar or some sort of a juice drink, it's a little more digestible and you can drink in higher quantities. So the Bhagavatam, because it's a narrative and also philosophy, you're able to read through it. It has, we just celebrated Ram Navami, right? So it has information on Lord Rama in the 9th canto, the creation in the 1st canto, and all the 12 cantos or 12 parts is Krishna's full body. So for those of you who have an apartment or a home, having the Bhagavatam there will also attract a lot of positive vibrations. And whenever people visit our home, people say that, wow, I feel such positive vibrations here. And instead of maybe getting a picture that says positive vibes, you can actually get the real deal, which is the Bhagavatam. And consider this as a once-in-a-lifetime sort of investment that is there for you, for your family and your friends, where you gather together before going to bed, sitting on your living room couch, and instead of scrolling on the phone or, arguing over things on politics and all that, read the Bhagavatam because that will give you such mental peace. And when I read the Bhagavatam, I was not following any principles of Krishna consciousness. I was, drinking beer, eating meat, and, I didn't know anything better. So I read the Bhagavatam, and it gave me such supreme peace, and it inspired me to follow Krishna consciousness. It inspired me to do mantra meditation. It inspired me to really think about traditional Vedic knowledge, but because it's nicely explained in purports, it helped me understand the knowledge better. So our message to the world is, let's preserve Sanatan Dharma, let's preserve this yoga culture, yoga wisdom culture, by reading Bhagavatam and sharing Bhagavatam. And the first person you distribute a Bhagavatam to is yourself. And you read on a daily basis because that will give you the impetus to act in this world. Otherwise, we go around the world, we may chant our mantra meditation, but we come across so many opposing elements. There may be people who are angry, or we may have some deadlines to submit to, and this gives us a lot of anxiety. But the Bhagavatam will give you a proper direction on how and where to go in life. And we have a goal of 100,008, and Team Toronto is going to be very much part of that goal. So we want you to support us in our mission in sharing Bhagavatam and taking Bhagavatam. And just like if you go to a car dealership, people who may not pay a Bhagavatam in full, they may pay in installments, right? But the installments, we don't charge interest. That's the difference. So you take a Bhagavatam, you can, pay a little installment. If you're a student, you can't afford everything right up front. And what it does is, just like you come here, you give a donation. Similarly, those who give a donation for knowledge, it helps you connect you to the knowledge. It gives appreciation to the teachers who have passed this knowledge down generation after generation. So my humble request to all of you, as Srila Prabhupada carefully went around the world distributing this knowledge, that let's follow in the footsteps of a great sage, Narad Muni, who shared Krishna consciousness everywhere he went towards taking Srimad Bhagavatam. We have a set actually displayed there, and we have it in different languages. So having Bhagavatam at your home, it'll change your life for the better, and you will be very blissful, and you'll notice the change right away. And consider it as a daily meditation to meditate on the words of Lord Krishna himself. Hare Krishna. So we'll take any questions or comments. Yes. Sure. So the question is, I talked about how we should be broad-minded towards people who practice other religions, but then there are certain other religions that follow this exclusivist doctrine, my way or the only way. How do we understand that, and then what our attitude should be? So that's a very good question. So we understand it through the modes of material nature. There's a mode of goodness, sattva, mode of passion, rajas, and mode of ignorance or darkness, which is tamas. So those who say my way is the only way is very much sort of a rajasic sort of faith in that mode, that my way is the only way. If you don't follow this, then we cast you away. But the mode of goodness, we understand, it's based on knowledge. It's based on, seeing that undivided spiritual nature amongst everyone. Jivera Swarupoy Krishna Nityadas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said everyone is a loving servant of Krishna. Krishna also says, Mame Vamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. It's not that you practice Krishna consciousness, then you become a part and parcel of Krishna. No. Every person, every living entity is a part of Krishna. So Vaisheshika Prabhu, who's our book distribution minister, when he encounters people who are very fanatic, we can leave them off in a good impression because they're going to be where they're at. So one thing he mentioned was, it's great that there's people like you with such great faith in this world. And, I practice bhakti, but we need more people like you in this world. Just leave them off in a good impression. Because if we go down to their level of saying that, well, your attitude is wrong, then there's going to be this sort of conflict. Because we're going down to the level of rajas. So naturally, there'll be this sort of friction. So it's best just to avoid this sort of thing. If a person's open-minded, like our Bhagavad Gita was read by Thomas Merton, little open-minded person based on knowledge trying to understand things, we can have a dialogue, a nice discussion. We can see this with Francis Clooney and Radhanath Swami. They have this sort of discussion. But a person is very fanatical, they're acting on the lower modes. And best is to avoid that. But we leave them in a nice, pleasant sort of way. Yeah. All right, it's prasadam time. So if you have any other questions, you can ask me later. But yes, prasadam. Announcements and prasadam, I guess.
Thank you. Let's give a big round of applause for Prabhu and that wonderful class. So we just have a few announcements before it is prasadam time, so please be patient. Thank you. So ISKCON Toronto's Building Improvement Committee is launching the next phase of renovations with a new multi-purpose balcony hall. And as you can see up there, the renovations have begun. It's going to be a glass-walled space for education, arts, and performances to serve our growing community. And we aim to raise $75,000, and we humbly invite you to support us in this endeavor, so you can visit the front desk for more details. We also have free 2026 ISKCON Toronto calendars available, and they are free. So please take one for yourself or your friends and family. It has all the dates on all the festivals and Ekadasi dates as well. So if you don't want to miss out, definitely take a look. We also have a monthly news journal called 243 Review, and it's free and released on the 1st of every month, and it discusses all the happenings, initiatives happening at the temple. So please subscribe, and you can use a QR code on the bulletin board outside. This spring, you can join ISKCON Toronto for a special Kirtan event called Harinama Eva Kevalam Garden of Bhakti on Saturday, April 25th. So please come into the temple and we can all chant the holy names and cultivate the spirit of Bhakti in a very uplifting atmosphere. So please mark your calendars for that date. For darshan timings or any upcoming events, you can please visit our website at torontokrishna.com. So let's offer a heartfelt thank you to our today's cooks, Bhadra Krishna Prabhu, Aditi Mataji, and their dedicated team. Let's give a big round of applause. And so today we have one Sunday feast sponsor, Devanshu and Chaitanya Bansal, on the occasion of Father Rajesh Bansal's death anniversary. We're grateful for all of our sponsors who seek the blessings of Lord Krishna. So let's all chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra 3 times to invoke the blessings of their lordships. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you. So if you'd like to sponsor a Sunday feast or DD garlands, please visit a devotee at the front desk. So just a note that the altar doors will be opening at 8 o'clock for Sayana Arti. And so once the altar doors reopen, we kindly ask that you do not honor your prasadam in the temple hall, but to please go outside or onto the balcony. And also, please do not throw away your leftover prasadam. There will be a devotee at the garbage area to help you with sorting into the organic bins. Thank you so much for your cooperation. Hare Krishna. It is time for prasadam. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. If you do not find space in the temple hall, you can go to the balcony and come back with the empty plates. The chairs